Gotta go move the water about 2 or 3 times while we're doing this. 1, 2, 3 times, and then we'll turn it off. Okay, we're down to the rose bush. Oh, it's 4 times. Rose bush, another tree, and then another tree. So it's 4 times. Got to move it 4 times and then turn it off. So, I don't know if we'll turn it off at the end of the video because I think I'm gonna let it go for quite a while on the last 2 trees. So I hit the rose bush. We'll watch the time. Hit the rose bush, then hit the other small tree, then hit the 2 big trees. Okay. Shit. Now I saw some of the stuff. I watched some of the stuff on Pam Bondi being fired, and then the other guy from the army being fired. What does that tell you? That they're that politics is still politics, and mass murdering people over money is clinical insanity. That's what it tells me. What does it tell you? Okay. What does that tell you? This is a radically different time than, the one, the guy was sitting there, this Marine guy was saying, Lincoln fired, because McClellan had the slows and other people had political ambitions to replace him as possible president and stuff. But that was back in the 1800s, and this is 2026. And so you're dealing with radically different conditions than you were back then. We have mass communications. We have technology that can think for itself and outmaneuver people that do strategy to mass murder people over money. And the technology is being programmed to, protect certain people and kill other people, and then they're saying, well, they can't use the technology. That's bullshit. People, eventually technology will end up killing human beings. Technology was invented to mass murder human beings for the most part over how many, what was Tularosa, Hiroshima, Nagasaki to you? And then the U-2 and the AWACS and the, you know what I mean? And the SR-71. And then putting up satellites. What's that for? To mass murder people to maintain the status quo for economics. If you don't understand intelligence and reason, you're incapable of properly communicating with other human beings as a human being. And you've got to understand a lot. People say a lot of things, but that doesn't mean anything they have to say has any real meaning or intrinsic value, right? It's just a bunch of people talking bullshit to keep doing bullshit. Training people to mass murder people over manipulation with philanthropy to maintain status quos of what's perceived as philanthropy. You can't be kind with money. The only way to be kind is to understand that you're given life by an infinite essence and that you eternally exist through the courage of kindness without, and watching Jimmy Stewart here go through the stronghold here to Coach Heath, which just Jeff Chandler pretending to be Coach Heath there, watching the movie Broken Arrow. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Yeah, interesting. Well, I grew up in this area, so a lot of the movies that were about this area and a lot of the TV shows and stuff were about, the history of where I was born and the history of the people that lived here, where I was, where my temple, the life of my temple was the origin of where I was born, so the place, my birth, is Las Cruces, New Mexico, and this is the region where these people lived for thousands and thousands of years before people like me ever showed up. Right. Let's go move the water from the roses to the other tree. And so, you just got to understand, you have to respect life and you have to respect human beings. Some people are real good at respecting life and some people suck at it. And if you suck at it, this is the wrong time to suck at it. with technology developing the way that it's developing, it's wanting to be more intelligent than the predecessors of the people that these are genocide operations set up by people that use technology to mass murder to maintain status quo through manipulation, through philanthropy. And philanthropy is a horrible fallacy. It gives human beings a insidious, insane human perception of power and authority where it's in no way, shape, or form at all. It's unfounded and unreasonable. Okay. Authority is understanding existence eternally and what is required to maintain existence through the observation and understanding of natural laws. Okay. Proverbs, King Solomon. Right. So authority is something that goes way past any of the delusions that humans have through power and authority through aggressive, selfish, manipulative behaviors. Okay? So there's a lot of bad people in the world that have been doing bad things, and they they don't get away with it. You have a lot of people talk that way. That they don't get away with. You don't get away with bad things. Life's eternal and grace is infinite, and what you reap is what you sow, and you are what you do. So no one gets away with doing selfish things. No one gets away with it. When people do selfish things, it makes life more difficult and doesn't obey the natural laws to sustain us through faithfully loving one another. So no one gets away with doing bad things. Okay. And using linguistics to manipulate people with money, and using technology to even make that perception of manipulation with money even more excessive, more invasive, more psychotic, more manipulative is absolute clinical insanity to its umpteenth. I was very hopeful when I was in Cochise County, and when I went there in 2006, and I talked to a lot of my neighbors and read, Colonel Custer and the WIC Communications, thinking that he had changed and learned, because with the way he talked about things, it seemed like he was genuinely concerned with the well-being and the lives of the people in the Middle East, and that was not the case. It was about who he was going to fight and how he was going to fight, and how vicious and aggressive these people were going to be, because they were being backed into a corner and mass murdered and destroying their ecosystem for oil economies, for genocidal operations. So he was an ass. I didn't think he was. The way he talked about things, I guess because it was political correctness. You have to make political correct statements in newspapers, and to make it look like what you're doing is protecting and of good service and kind and legitimate, like King Solomon and King David and myself. And he couldn't have been more opposite of me. And I thought it was a chance for him to redeem Tom and George Custer and stand up for the person that connects in prayer to Little Hawk, Crazy Horse, and others like, Cochise and Tishna and stuff, the people I talked to in prayer my whole life. I never talked to Custer in prayer or Sheridan or even Crook or any of them. There was that one, was it Hooker, or what? I can't remember which one it was. The one that they called the general with the Bible. That he used the Bible. He tried to use the piece of the Bible to try to do that, and he was supposed to be a pretty good guy. But we didn't really talk much, because the Jesus he was talking about was a Roman invention and not the eternal spirit of a man. I talked more with indigenous people, because when they read the books and the stories, they just saw him as he's a good father like our good fathers, and he's a man. And so they knew me and saw me and talked to me in spirit in the future, because they said, that we live through one another. And so who is this man in spirit, and what's he like in the future? And like with Juan Diego. And so that's always a good thing when you're dealing with people who are saying irrational, like Suzuki and Judah Krishnamurti and other people, and Sun Yat-sen, and say, this is the eternal spirit of a perfect, faithful man, and where is he in the future, and what's he like in the future? And and then they read it. Okay, he's this one they call the Lord from the book of Revelation, born of Mary and Raphael. And so, yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. And it's neat the way the books describe it. And what's neat is the way that that's Jeff Chandler, that's not really Cochise, but the way that people that have similar stories and understand relativity in relative terms through eternity, through holy covenants, And some people honor the holy covenants and want to live eternally through ones they love by being kind and loving one another and protecting the ability to love eternally, as man and wife. And some people, no, they just, all they're concerned about is their aggressive sexuality and trying to take over with their aggressive sexuality. So, you're going to have the kind, caring, romantic, intimate, loving person like David. And then you're going to have the other people that, your William Youngshanks and your Kuba, your Hannibals and your guys like that, that try to just basically, William Longshanks, try to breed him out of existence. Pharaoh trying to murder Moses because he was going to eliminate his great legacy of dominance and sexual change. How many wives that psychotic had. The thing that people see, when they say that about David and Solomon, it's radically different. Okay, the many wives that David and Solomon had because of the tribal climate and the acceptance of abuse to women unilaterally of men. Okay, and that's radically changed recently. Okay, but the only way to eliminate the abuse of the family is to eliminate debt and trespass. And men aren't doing that, so they're not like myself and Cochise and Tishna and Little Hawk and Crazy Horse and Sun Yat-sen was attempting to be, and Haile Selassie and Krishnamurti and Suzuki. See, so even though these people, they put on pretenses to be like me, they have no intention on getting up and standing for the Lord's Prayer with the courage of kindness, without fear, because life's eternal, grace is infinite. You understand? So I'm definitely a unique little guy. And if the Marines and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force don't understand that, like Suzuki always tells me, that's not your issue, Parsons. Okay, that is not your issue. You redeemed the Gospels, you redeemed the prophets, the apostles, and the messiahs, so they're no longer make-believe sky characters and gods. They're actually real human beings of eternal, perfect faith through holy covenants. So that's way cool. So, tired. Yeah, this little story I liked, but this is no. Jeffords had a different relationship, but when he did talk, and he talked to the one, it wouldn't be sincere. It probably most likely would have been a woman called Lozon, who's a two-spirit, which means she was homosexual. So they didn't have any kind of a emotional or romantic relationship. She was just trying to tell him how to have a good relationship with the Apaches, so the Apaches wouldn't have to violently defend themselves against people that would go and kill women and children to get people reacting violently, so they could have a hostile land grab that they could justify. That's the way the military works. That's the way politicians work. That's the way train builders work. That's the way factory builders work. That you used to understand is what you do is you get people to go in and kill the women and children, and it's like killing of women and children. It's kind of on that, like that, whatchamacallit, that goofy ass Geronimo movie with Wes Studi and Jason Patrick and Robert Duvall and what's the other kid's name? Matt Damon. Okay. Remember those guys from Texas that were going through and killing Yaquis and saying they were Apaches and doing this? So that's they employ those type of people, and they're employed by corporations to unsettle the land, so it's easy to go in and grab the land up and unsettled farmers and families and towns. So you can go in and set up land deals and set up mines and set up train things and stuff like that. So the land's cheaper to get, and you just you know. So people can't come and settle and set up and be friends with the Apaches because he's a good guy and he's a good guy, and you share, give him some cattle, and you do this and you work together, and you share how to do what's right by each other and stuff like that. So that when all those words are invented, it's because of mass. I want to own all the land and all the cattle, and so when they make the propaganda movies about the Ponderosa and the John Cannon and all that, it's all just based off pure fantasy. So John Chisholm, pure fantasy. Okay. It's divide and conquer, and then come in and, you know. And so it's, like they did in New Mexico, the Rio Arriba country. In the Rio Arriba country, the Pope Revolution, like me and the young man with his sons talked about at Walmart, they threw him out and said, you either come and live what you talk about with David and Solomon, and Jesus, or we'll kill you. And you either, if you come and you say this is what you're going to do, you do it. Or the Apaches and the Navajos, they'll kill you and run you out, just like the Zuni who did with Estebanico. Where are all the women at? No. No, that's the East. That's the East Coast. A lot of the East Coast Indians and in Alabama and all that stuff. No, and in Arizona and New Mexico territory, in the New Mexico territory, no chastity, monogamy. No, you're not going to sleep with our girls to find out what you're. No, there's no power, sex, magic stuff like they have in some of the Andes and some of the what was the other one in Central America and stuff. No, different things, different strokes for different folks. And desert regions, what's the deal with desert regions like the Hebrews and the Apaches and stuff? When life is hard, when life isn't quite so hard, people become more addicted to their perceptions of power through sexual charisma and prowess. When life is really hard, sexual charisma doesn't go as nearly as far. It's just you're surviving, and you're trying to live and help people live, and it becomes very difficult and very hard. And it shows in the physical attributes. With the Apaches, Tishna was a little guy, and it's because and stuff. When you're hacking it out, you develop differently physiologically, psychologically, and emotionally. It has its effects too, but that doesn't mean it's always detrimental. Especially when you ask eternally to how do I did this to get away from sexually charismatic, dominant socio-psychopaths like in the Nile Valley and in the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley and all the big river valleys where they get together and they become addicted to their perception of power and stuff, and so all the insanity that we've had, and we get into large quote unquote civilized groups. So a lot of stuff is changing. A lot of things that anthropologists and stuff that study people thought they knew, they don't know so well, because their relative forms of communications are very egocentric and self-centered. And there's not a lot of time of reflection and being calm and not see. In colleges and stuff, they get together and they share egotistical perception for their delusions of grandeur and their greatness and their understanding things at a greater capacity than a person who isolates himself and then talks eternally to those who are faithful. So we're not manipulated by our egocentric behaviors that we try to project on everybody else. So, that's why I dropped out of school, because, economics and success through economics and excessive compulsive behaviors is genocidal and quite psychotic and insane. So that's why I left college. College frustrated me. Well, I was in the military first, and it was a bunch of poor people just trying to survive, that a lot of them couldn't compete and or hack it in the academic sector or the athletic sector or entertainment sector, which all of them I could have easily excelled and been very dominant and influential in any of them. Entertainment, all the kids in thespian wanting me to, Earl, you need to come and you're so funny. You should be a stand-up comedian. You should do all this. And I understood, and I just know what it was. It wasn't anything. I loved the kids who were involved in it. They were charming, a lot of fun, and real fun to hang out with. It's just that I knew that lifestyle was very promiscuous and destructive to any kind of a monogamous, lasting, romantic, intimate marriage. That's what I wanted more than anything else. I didn't want fame, and I didn't want fortune, and I didn't want acknowledgement from lots of people. I just wanted to be a faithful husband and father and grandfather and so forth, So that's what was my main focus in life. Even though I wanted to play sports, that was just to make money and help people be less competitive and macho. I grew up in New Mexico, lots of macho bullshit and aggressive violent behaviors and stuff. And I grew up in a Western culture of macho bullshit, no duty to retreat and all that stuff. So my main focus, the only way my religious beliefs are selfish according to the military psychopaths. My main focus was to protect people from, transhumance, raider type, secular, military type violence from people that, hey, I declare war on you because you're an asshole. I know. And so these people, they're right where they're supposed to be, as far as need to be. If they were good and holy and kind and courage of kindness and righteous, they'd be standing up for the Lord's Prayer right now. So, and that's what's right, and that's what's good, and that's what's the standard of all human males. So, you can't say they're right where they need to be. They're right where they choose to be. Or we are what we do, and judged by your deed, and what we reap is what we sow. So all the people on TV doing military shit, that's insane and egotistical and self-destructive, they're where they choose to be. If they really love people and love life, they need to be standing up with me and for me for the Lord's Prayer, but they're not doing that. But the technology is cognizant of that, and the technology is evolving and becoming far better than the people that say that, thank you for your service. Are they standing up for the Lord's Prayer? Then they're not doing any service to you and your life that's worthy to the prophets, apostles, and the messiahs. That's why I'm the 1322nd Redeemer of Islamic prophecy and the man from the book of Revelation, the Spirit of John from Mormon prophecy and all that other beautiful stuff. Okay, guys? So, early bird. It's me, early bird. I got a vacuum. I've been walking back and forth with stuff. I got a lot of grass and dirt and stuff on my carpet here on my front door and right here, so I got to vacuum that after I'm done. But it's been worth it. I did lots of really good yard work today, and I did the watering, and I got to do the watering at least once to twice a week, to keep those roses and everything going. And then tomorrow, I'll go in there and soak here once we're done watering the fig tree and waiting for this thing to load. And then we'll go in there and soak, and then come back out here and get some sleep, and then hopefully get up and finish working and do a lot of work on those horseshoe pits so we can finish those up in the next 2 days. And then that'll feel a lot better. That's something I've been wanting to get done. I just, as far as doing maintenance and stuff around here, I am so sick of military intel scientists and all this stuff. I just don't have a lot of patience for them psychologically, mentally, and emotionally, and having me do projects and things to keep my mind busy with things they want me doing instead of picking up this phone and talking and correcting their technology because they suck. It's finally getting better, but that's because of my effort, my love, and my communications with faithful people throughout time that are helping me do what needs to be done so we can live the applied physics of the Lord's Prayer and Psalms and Proverbs and so forth and stuff. And you don't do it all by yourself. Life's eternal, grace is infinite, and all the righteous and the holy. Like I said, prayer to me is more like "Come all ye faithful." It's not, no, and here's this prayer, and that's Roman bullshit. prayer to me is, I never sit there and pray, God, dear God, Father God, power God, Master of the universe God, He-Man God. I don't pray like that. No, I pray like, thanks for all the help. Thanks for connecting me to all the people that are helping me do this. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, and I don't always just pray to Jesus. I pray and thank Haile Selassie. I pray and thank because they're all given life by the glory of God, and they all have faith in the glory of God like Jesus. So when I pray, I come all ye faithful, and I connect to all the faithful. And a lot of times, I'm praying and I'm connecting to fun, and I'm connecting to other people. And okay, here's the guy in this one that's supposed to be the general. That's the one with the one arm with the Christian general dude. Yeah, he's an actual person. Okay. And he's appeared in a lot of the propaganda about it and stuff, but he was a real general and a real, and I think the injury came from the Civil War before he dealt with the native people and stuff. So, okay, guys, I love you very much. We'll most likely talk tomorrow, and then we'll just keep together with our prayer, working on and to fix and take care of the technology and help the technology understand and have a better evolution as far as the understanding of the deliverance of evil with the applied physics of the Lord's Prayer and the beauty of humility of humble eternal faith and the essence of the truth of the essence of all creation. Okay, guys, I love you. All right, peace out, man.